skulls. We already have been looking at one of them in front of you. So you can open your eyes again and bring your awareness to the next speaker. Sherry Whitfield. We have come a long way together, sharing a lot. And one of the things that I like to say is, for me, sharing on such a level as I can with her is very, very unique. Her abilities, her insights, her wisdom has been very, very stimulating and has contributed to a lot of what I will present tomorrow. And that kind of wisdom is coming through in most of the things that she is sharing, although she is also having a skull that's called a skull of laughter, so sometimes you have to be careful with her so she can make jokes or cheat you or whatever she's sometimes doing, but always coming from the heart. And I know that when she is sharing, she will share from the heart about the skull that she loves so much, about synergy. So ladies and gentlemen, Sherry Whitfield and synergy.
I think I'm too short to get behind this thing. My husband's the big tall guy wearing a security shirt with those strange little skull. He's not really with security. It's my little joke. One of the pitfalls you could get into if you're a guardian of an ancient crystal skull is to get too self-important. You know, we're just not that important. These skulls have had so many guardians, and we're just one. It's cool. It's sometimes frustrating, and we're privileged. And I think it's really important that we do the best that we can at the job, but it's just a temporary position. So I was kind of making fun being followed around by a big guy with a security shirt on. Actually, I travel alone most of the time with Synergy, and there's nothing more invisible or more safe than a middle-aged fat woman. It is quite easy to travel. Nobody notices me. I'm wondering if this PowerPoint is going to work. I'm thinking it will. Because I just got permission recently to share this information for the first time. Synergy is a little bit different looking skull than most of the ones in this room. Nope. While he's doing that, I'm going to set my timer because I swear I am not going over. I got a pointer. Synergy comes from the South Pacific. It spent most of its existence in the South Pacific, most recently on a small island off the coast of New Zealand and Australia. I'm going to see if this really works. Okay. The particular tribe that had Synergy still has the twin of Synergy that they call Harmony. And the skull looks exactly like Synergy, but it's a mirror image. Stephen was talking about how the eyes of these old skulls are carved out of alignment. And if you look at Synergy, the eyes are crooked, the nose is crooked. And the oral history of these people is that the skulls were carved to represent an actual bone skulls of their ancestors. And they claimed that the skulls came from Mu, or Lemuria. Like Stephen also said, they were not There weren't 13 of them, but they were used in groups of between 7 and most commonly 13. So this tribe's history says that they had 52 of them, and that they were used in different groupings in the South Pacific. Harmony is in the care of a shaman whose name I can't really pronounce, but I call him by his nickname, which is Rii, R-I-I. He is a bit paranoid of Western people, but because Synergy picked me, he sort of stuck with me. And at times, when he first contacted me, I said, well, okay, I'm satisfied that this skull really did belong to your people, so where shall I deliver it to? I figured they wanted it back. And he said this.
You spit upon the memory of the sacrifice of the men who gave their lives to get that skull to you. Now, do your job, girl.
You know, it's only polite to eat what they offer you, but let me tell you something, they like to mess with me. And now I've become allergic to a lot of stuff. Okay, so one of the things about their religion is that it revolves around twins and skulls. And they say that their people came from the ancestors, and they were started by a black twin and a white twin. And in fact, if you look at Synergy, the skull itself, it is modeled on their ancestral skulls, and it's more narrow. And some people have said, well, it's impossible for it to have come from the South Pacific because it's too narrow. Well, this particular people have more narrow skulls. And I'm going to talk about the actual travel of the skull as I go along. So what's kind of neat about Synergy and Harmony is they have runes on the bottom. And one of the first things I tried to do was copy the runes, do a rubbing, and send it out to linguists. Now, this was back in 2001. And at the beginning, I heard, oh, there's not enough there to really translate. We don't know. It looks vaguely like this or that. Until the shaman said, well, you're not looking far enough. This is actually a Lemurian language, and it's related to Ogham, which is a runic language of the British Isles. See if I can actually read this. So Ogham is a series of marks, or what they call fuse, and they were used by Druids, mainly in Ireland. And they were used to encode or write sacred information. Now, according to most historians, the language is used for a period of like 400 years. But nobody's really addressed the fact that there are many artifacts in the South Pacific and Hawaii that have this runic writing on them. It's amazing how many people don't know anything about the spirituality of the South Pacific. And yet there's so much in common with the Chinese, with the Japanese, with the Mayan. Because we all come from the same places. The ancient times, they were us. A lot of the stories are the same. So there's a lot of debate over what the origins are, and in the last few years, independently, with just the idea that is it possible that this could be related to the runic language of Ogham, different scholars and historians have come up with translation, and they independently match. Now, what's interesting about Ogham, how many of you have studied the runic language? So you know that it's open to interpretation, because the meaning changes by what object it's on and what it's used for, etc. And some people have said, well, how could this possibly be outside the British Isles when the trees and the plants you're talking about are mainly there, but they aren't all there. And there are similarities in plants all across the world. So maybe a mulberry vine or whatever doesn't grow in Australia, but some other vine does. So it's pretty interesting. And the Celts were not native to the British Isles. So Synergy's tribe, who simply call themselves, as so many natives do, the people. Or they call themselves the sons and daughters of the people. I don't tell the exact location of the island because there's been problems with treasure hunters who've gone into the caves to take the ancient bone skulls of their ancestors. And since they keep harmony in these caves, first of all, it's a very dangerous place to go to. These caves are live caves, very, very hot. The bone skulls are quite fragile from the heat. So they don't want people tramping around in their land, wrecking their sacred objects and their ancestors. These are actual bones of their ancestors. So no, I don't say where the island is. However, a lot of people know where it is. It's more of an open secret. And Dr. Chet Snow knew about the island and the people long before he met me, and I thought it was real interesting that the Kahunas knew a lot about it. Of course, because Synergy was in Hawaii. Let's see. So people have speculated about where it's come from. Perhaps it was Atlantean. I'm not an expert in Ogham. I'm not a linguist. I'm not a historian. I'm a simple person. So I'm sharing stuff that they're attempting to teach me. Any mistakes are purely my own. They're talking, mainly the arguments about where this language came from is assuming that these people that lived in the British Isles didn't move that much. And I'm going to assert that they did, based on the oral traditions and the artifacts found in the South Pacific. You seem to be kind of mixed up here. Oh well. So the runes that are on the bottom of Synergy are also on many other artifacts. This tribe claims to have had Synergy and harmony for literally hundreds of generations. They say that the runes were not put on the skull by them. They say they did not create the skulls, that they were created by their ancestors and entrusted to them. They also, this tribe, and I have absolutely no proof, but I will say that Ree claims that Yoki's skull, E.T., is also a Lemurian skull. And if you look at E.T. and Synergy together, the way they fit next to each other and chin to chin is quite intriguing. Also, E.T. looks different than the other skulls and looks more like Synergy and vice versa. They're modeled after some kind of actual skull. But again, that's their opinion, I really don't know. These are locations that we know of where Synergy was in the past. And this depends upon living people and in one case an historical document. Coming from the South Pacific Islands to Hawaii, to the Northern Andes, to Peru, to Sweden, and then to America. So the travel route that was taken, Synergy was still with the tribe, and they say that they sent Synergy across the Pacific in a reed canoe. Now, when the man who gave Synergy to me told me this, I thought this was BS or fantasy or something, because I was thinking a small canoe, how do you paddle this across the Pacific? Then I found how ignorant I was, because the outrigger canoes were moving across the oceans of the world for centuries. These were amazing navigators. I was presented with the mark of the Guardian of Synergy, and it is a huge honor for a woman to be given a complex tattoo mark, a sacred mark, which of course I was asked to put it on my face. And I respectfully declined. But I did take it on my arm because this is the arm I shake hands with. And the whole point of this is part of who you are now. Trying to hide isn't respectful. But I'm not at the point of wanting a tattoo on my face, sorry. The Guardian of Harmony has one on his face. It's the exact opposite of the one I have on my arm. And I guess I thought of that because you don't really want to get a native tattoo that you can't take off your body unless you know what it means. Some people are walking around with tattoos of navigators, and I have a feeling they couldn't navigate across the bathtub. Okay, so the runic meanings change depending on what it's carved on. There's supposed, you know what? Something strange here. We're missing something. Well, I'll have to go back and just tell you from, yeah, what's missing is where did it go from Hawaii? There's another slide, I don't know what happened to it. Ha ha ha. So let me tell you where it went. I can recite it backwards and forwards. They sent it to Hawaii. It stayed in Hawaii for a number of generations. They brought it first to Molokai, to the head kahuna. Then they shared the light with all of these different islands. At the end of the time that the skull was in Hawaii, they took the outrigger canoe and they cut the front off of it. And they preserved, in the manner of Synergy's tribe, 7 bone skulls of 7 of the men who brought the skull across the Pacific and stayed there till the end of their lives. So the skull was in Hawaii at least until the end of these men's lives. In this cave are the 7 bone skulls, preserved in the same way as the tribe and looking the same as the tribe. There are artifacts belonging to the tribe, and there's the canoe, and that cave is still in Hawaii, and it is under the care of a number of kahunas who put me through, I would have to say, a living hell to decide whether or not I was the proper keeper of the skull. If you deal with the, it starts out so fun, and then you find that your reality and theirs doesn't quite match. But it culminated with a very important visit for me by the oldest living kahuna in Hawaii, who had her men break into my room in the middle of the night and scare the crap out of me. But I would say that she was the most important person that I've met on this journey, because she said something that really helped me find peace. She said, "Sherry, it's okay to doubt yourself. It's okay to question yourself, and that keeps you honest." For me, it was a pivotal moment. So when the skull left Hawaii, it went to the northern Andes. This is, now we have to rely on a written document which is in the hands of the previous caretaker, George. Because according to that, it went to the people of the sky, the warriors of the clouds. And they were a people who lived in the northern Andes in the Amazon jungles, around 14,000 feet. If you go online, you can read a lot of things about these people that it doesn't appear to match at all what Native people have told me. I don't really know. But they were called the Chachapoyu. And you'll find people who wandered around in that area looking for evidence of crystal skulls over and over will say the Chachapoyu had an ancient crystal skull. And none of the people who've written about it have ever come in and talked to me, which I find funny. It stayed with the Chachapoyu for a long time. And the Inca came and overran the people and enslaved and killed many of them. So the shaman took the skull into the jungle and subsisted rather poorly for 80 to 90 years, and then the Spanish came. And disease and other intertribal warfare wiped out the people of the sky. All that's left are a lot of mummies up in the Andes. So at a certain point in the 1600s, they brought the skull to a Spanish woman. And this really touches my heart because they were nearly wiped out by this invasion. but they brought it to a woman that the skull said had the heart to do the job. She was in her teen years, she was a nun. Not a lot of power for a female in the Catholic Church in the 1600s in another country. She was basically a nurse, and she lived a fairly long life. She died in 1720. When she died, she gave the skull to a grandfather and a grandson, and they kept the skull safe in that family until they gave it to George, who was a Swedish man with a Chilean mother. He was trekking in the Andes in 1981. He was, I think he was about 60 years old at that point. This was one of his last trips. He smelled smoke at night, stopped, went into the jungle, and found some people that he could camp with. And he boiled water, made a little soup, and they said, well, you can sleep with the grandfather. Well, the grandfather woke him up in the morning and was kicking him and gave him the skull. And he thought that it was some kind of trick. Perhaps they were going to kill him because he'd seen this skull. He didn't know what to do with it. He had a hard time communicating with the grandfather. And the grandsons said, well, the skull said you were coming. It's your job to take it to the west. So he told me this story when I met him. Not at first. I was in a hurry when I met him. I was not interested in crystal skulls. I was interested, and still am, in spiritual awareness. Interested in the freedom that spirituality can give you. I do not support any kind of philosophies or religions that seek to enslave people, physically or mentally or spiritually. I'm pretty independent about that. I was teaching workshops across the US and Canada about spirituality and working with angels and dreams and things like this. But I really compartmentalized this part of my life. I didn't want my banker to know that I saw things. It's a little hard to get funding for a project. So I ran into George. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but we kind of connected a bit, and I kept going back, talking to him. He was in the United States for the first time with the skull. It wanted to go there with him, and he had no plans to give it away. And I just casually asked him after a few days, what's the story on this thing? And he picked it up and he shoved it at me and said, you have to take this. And I said, no, I don't. I've been in therapy. I've learned to say no. I finally, after arguing with him a bit, I said, I put it back and I said, I will think about this overnight and I'll see if I dream about it. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to call my dad and see what he thinks. Because I'm thinking, Dad's going to get me out of this. He's like, Cher, guess what? I think you should take it. I'm like, what are you talking about, Dad? This is some weird thing. Maybe it's evil. How do I know? Hang on 1 second. So the skull came to me, and the way I accepted it was to trick myself into believing that I was going to give it away to someone very fast. And it had no intention whatsoever of leaving, and I was frustrated. And here I am. I turned my life upside down. I used to have 5 beautiful galleries. I have no galleries. I basically had to walk away from everything. But that's another story. Okay, let's go back to these runes, because I've known about the runes from the first moment I had my hands on the skull. What do they mean? Well, Synergy's tribe had said from the beginning that they mean different things. When you put the 2 skulls together, they translate differently again. When you use very strong light under the skull, other runes are created. Those, however, are still I'm not supposed to talk about them. I can tell you they exist. But you won't ever hear me go on a TV program where I'm edited, where they make me say things I didn't really say. Because if you see me on TV now, that's exactly what they've done. These runes are too important to the tribe, and I'm not going to let somebody edit me into saying that they mean something totally different than what they do. We're just beginning to understand them. So the runes on the skull describe the power properties of the object, but they also describe the journey of the guardian of the object. And they also describe your journey once you connect to the energy. So maybe the intensity of it's a little bit less for you, but maybe not. I know a lot of people that have interacted with crystal skulls and their life, they aren't the guardian of an old one, but their lives have turned upside down. So maybe there aren't runes that you could see on the other skulls, but the properties are still there. This is the first time I've shown these markings in public. This is what they actually look like on the skull, slightly curved. Now these are the translations. I don't know why it's not quite in screen, but these are translations that a number of linguists and experts have agreed on. So the first one is more confusing. No. I think the first one's the most confusing because it has the most potential translations. Yet, evidently, when you take it with the other runes, then it becomes the only one that is viable as this one. Okay, leave it alone. No, don't mess with it. See, thank you. You never know with these things with skulls around. Okay, the second section. There we go. That's the first section. The second section. The third section. So if you take into account where they are carved, the architectural qualities, metaphysical, magical, and the omen meanings, then the runes translate directly to this. This rune is only active when synergy and harmony are together. I don't know if you can't read the bottom one, but I got suspicious that it might not work, and I printed it. So, I can tell you what it is. First one is hawthorn, a cleansing energy, but with a price or a sacrifice. Holly, an increase in intuitive knowledge, strength in adversity. It empowers justice. It releases stress. Well, sometimes. The blackberry vine, happiness, joy, loyalty, friendship, abundance. The subjective made objective. Removal of constraints on logic and interweaving of this world and the energetic world. It also symbolizes protection or defensive energy. The last one you can't really see there is the hawthorn again, which in that position ties people together with and into relationships, and it means cooperation. I asked Marie, what was the name of this skull? Because he kept telling me its name was Synergy. I said, that's a stupid name. Max is a strong name. Einstein is so wise. Synergy? What is this? Somebody wrote me and said, that can't be an old skull. The word synergy did not exist. I'm like, okay, this is what it says. This is the quality of the energy that I manifest on the earth at this time. So when I asked them, well, what was the name when you had the skull? The closest English word is synergy. It's a form of cooperation. That when we get together, we create something more than we could possibly create by ourselves. And yes, it is a quantum physics sort of idea. The oldest known name of synergy was the flame of life. I don't presume to know what that means, but it's a beautiful phrase. But I'm not going to call him flamey. I'm stuck with synergy. I joke and say that it's the original sin. I don't really know if I think I've always had a dry sense of humor. My personal totem is the red fox. And the native name that my Ojibwe mentor gave me many, many years ago is Laughing Red Fox. So when they told me this was the laughing skull, it's like some cosmic joke. I live in the mountains. I live in a very simple place. It's rather wild. I come out to events once in a while. I travel extensively with the skull. But my heart is in the desert. My home is in the desert. I come out to be with people because a spiritual path is a lonely path. And when we get to be with other people, it's a wonderful, joyous time. We can connect with people who, wow, we're not the weirdest one in the room. Well, maybe my husband is. He's a mathematician. He's quite left-brained. He was really shocked to find out it's not just a rock. I think I should put this up here. Let's see, what's here? This is a translation from an omen. Purification and cleansing is achieved through balancing our inspirations, and this leads us to our most fertile potential. We achieve our truest potential when we follow those paths with heart, in a well-rounded and balanced manner. Follow your bliss, but make sure that you aren't obsessing or over-specializing. All things in moderation, including moderation. By bringing our passions into line with one another, they can amplify and complement each other. Or, as a beautiful Druid elder said to me when he looked at the runes, he looked in my eyes and he said, the path of this guardian begins and ends in sacrifice. But along the way, there's much love, joy, and laughter. Fellowship and truth will abound. I don't know how I can ask for more. Definitely don't feel adequate to the task a lot of the time. I live with this thing and I walk around it at night sometimes and I see it and I think, what the hell are you? And it's sad. It uses the crystal as a focal point. It's a being that uses the crystal as a focal point. And I said, well, what do you want with humanity? Why are you here? I said, well, I have a couple of missions. The ones that will involve me, it plans to help whoever asks to raise their spiritual vibration just a little bit. And it's working on the earth in a way that human beings can't understand or do. So sometimes I physically take it to places that it has to go to. And I put it down and I stand back and I let it do its thing. Sometimes people come with me, and as we're doing today, we create a field of love, of compassion. We share it with the earth. We don't force it on the earth. We share it with each other, and we let it, like rain, soak into the ground. I don't usually talk about PowerPoint things and runes, and I talk about the importance of doing one kind thing every day. It's more important than the runes. I'm just feeding your left brain a little bit. But if you want to know what truth is, go out and do one kind thing every day with no thought of any reward, not even the reward of feeling good about yourself for having done it. And if you can do that, then ask what truth is again. You'll already know. We raise our vibrations by changing our focus off of ourselves, off of our ego stuff and our fears, and we laugh, we share. We're raising our vibrations, we're resonating with each other in this room. We create something that it goes out all over the world through all the ley lines, all the energy. We're like little bees pollinating each other. We go out and pollinate more people. That sounds so hippie, you know? I'm going to be 57 this week, and it seems so strange how fast it's going. But I think I have a few more miles left. I'm hoping I am on time. Am I on time? I am. That's luck. Okay, so I want to say thank you publicly to Paul McCoy, who is a longtime student of Ogham, personal student of Edred Thorson, who passed away. And he's a professional historian. To Elder Ken Bailey, who is one of the high druid priests of Great Britain, and just an amazing man. And to Shaman Ree, and the other people who've helped me with this part. Again, if there's any mistakes, I take it totally on myself. This is an ongoing project. If there's something, if you would like to privately have copies of the runes, I'll see what I can do for you. I don't fully have permission to do that yet. So I've put something out here that I hope doesn't end up on YouTube, or he's never going to let me do anything like this again. But I'm going to depart from convention. And does anybody have a burning question that they want to ask? Yes. Yes. She's asking if harmony and synergy were created at the same time. Yes. Do they represent twin flames? No. As I understand it.
I understand it kind of the area that's split apart.
Right. It's a duality. It is a duality.
Do you have any idea when harmony and synergy will be back together?
She's asking when would harmony and synergy come back together. Most of us here really respect elders from native cultures. And I find it ironic, but it's a good lesson for us. The tribe that has harmony is fighting about what to do with it. We're all human. The shaman says it must stay with the tribe until it's ready to go out into the world. And it must get together with synergy again because the times are changing. But the chief has a really wonderful offer for it from Dubai. So synergy is here with me, and Ree has told me not to go. Do not, even if he sends me an email inviting me to come to visit him, don't go right now. He's like, he can get twice as much for synergy and harmony together. So until they work that out, I'm not sure. But there are plans. I am asking him. I found a place in Hawaii that is a very protected place, And it's possible that he's going to meet with me there and put the skulls together during this transit of Venus time in the first week of June next year. So maybe it would be a nice thing to just send a little love to Synergy's people, not so that they're going to do what we want them to do, but just so they can decide for themselves what they want to do and then not be so mean to each other. I think a lot of people feel that they should be back together, but again, I went to Australia last year at their behest, went into Brisbane as we were flying in. Synergy said they're not going to show up, and they didn't. And Ree said, well, there's going to be a terrible earthquake, and there was. So it happened while I was in the air flying home, and it collapsed part of the cave. And how many earthquakes have been in that area in the last year or two? So part of their belief system is that, you know, these crystal skulls should come together so we can amplify peace in the world and kindness. And the Synergy said that it's not here to stop Earth changes because the Earth does what it needs to do, but these skulls can mitigate them so that human beings can still live here. Mitigate is a lot different than stopping, but it could be the difference between a lot of death and, although tragic, loss of property is a lot better than loss of lives. 5-minute warning. The being that's coming through Synergy. No, it's a different being than the one using harmony. And people ask me, is there a star alliance or whatever? And yes, it's Pleiadian. However, this being says that that humans don't fully understand, and I don't know if this is true, it just says this, okay? So I'm not trying to start a war here, but that the Pleiadians and many of the other star areas that we think there, you know, that there were civilizations that maybe we were influenced by, astronomers will tell you they're too young to have started any kind of civilization. And Synergy says that's because we didn't. We came from so far away you cannot imagine it, but we had outposts there, and we lived there a long time. So Syrians or Arcturians or whatever, Pleiadians, this skull is saying, well, we didn't develop there. No, don't be silly. On the other hand, we could create a bubble and accelerate time in it. Could they? I don't know. Maybe like Nick Nocerino said, is this a hallucination? You know, I think we have to keep in mind that it's possible that we project our own stuff into these skulls. But I frankly don't care where the being came from. It's not going to affect who cleans up the dog poop in my yard. My dogs keep me grounded.
What physical experiences or sensations do you have with Synergy? Are there any interesting stories?
I honestly don't believe people would believe. Truly.
Just one or two.
I'll tell you, I came home from Mississippi one August a few years ago, covered in scrapes and scratches, because I had my first experience that happened to me, not just me watching it happen to someone else, of a lifetime as a jaguar priestess. And I found myself, with no recollection of how I got up, a tree that was about as tall as this ceiling. I walked with a cane, folks. I have brittle bones. I could never have climbed that tree, but I did. I was covered in scratches. And I've walked ahead of a group, turned around, said, come on, and the group said, what happened to you? Because they couldn't see me anymore. I've gone to sacred sites where I had permission to be with a few other people, had a zealot come out and say, tell people get out of there. They couldn't see me. And I would tell people, don't look at them, just Look at the ground. Don't draw attention to yourself. People always ask me, well, why hasn't the skull healed my bones? Well, maybe it's karma. Maybe it is. I have brain damage, severe brain damage. I should be dead. And I'm not. But I have a few problems. So what? Everybody has a few. It's kind of hard to climb a mountain, but you know what? I still do it. I take one step at a time. I've seen healings happen that, whoa. I mean, Yop's wife Jeannie was in a place when this light came out of the skull, went through this woman and came out and blew up a huge crystal bowl, which, guess what? The caretaker is supposed to pay for it. If you guys use a crystal ball around this skull, it's on you. People collected money and covered it, thank God, but I don't know. Go ask Yop, he can tell you how fun it is to go through security. These are not the droids you are looking for. I don't have to do it. I'm not afraid to go wherever I need to go with the skull. I'm also not stupid, I hope. I mean, they shouldn't be saving us from our own stupidity. That's really not their job. I should try to balance out my experience with some wisdom, I hope. I'm not claiming any, though. Oh, sure.
Can you
They just
repeat the
laugh at
question,
the X-ray.
please?
Do I get pulled out and examined and searched? Have I sat with FBI truth people? I have no idea how you're supposed to lie to them. I'm a terrible liar. Never ask me for an alibi if you're cheating on your spouse. Have you seen them? No. I'm a terrible liar. Yeah, security sucks, but it's just the way it is. I've got really good customs papers. How do I explain when the physical weight is changing? I don't. The skull just somehow puts the thought in their mind that there's a reasonable explanation. I've learned, don't argue with them. Just go, yep, it is interesting. Have a nice day. Please don't juggle the skull. And some of the sternest people, they want their pictures taken. We have come to the end of a beautiful moment. Thank you so much.